Welcome to another episode of the Minority Voice. It's good to be back. And Dave, things going good still?
They're going good.
Awesome. Awesome. So, folks, hey, like I said before, if you could, we need your help. If you could subscribe to the channel, also, do some likes, shares, and make comments, that would be great. And today, I've got another special guest. All my guests are special, the fact that they show up, but this is a real special one because this one traveled miles, and she'll probably tell you how far she traveled. Not only is she a friend, but she's also someone that I'd say is very professional and is involved with social issues, social media. And so I'd like to introduce you to Norita. Hi, Norita. How you doing?
Hello, Jeff. Good, thank you. And thanks for having me here.
No, definitely my pleasure. So it's good that you're in America. As you can tell, folks, she's got this slight accent. So why don't you tell everybody where you're from?
Well, long story cut short, I was born in Singapore, raised in Singapore. And from Singapore, the first country I went to was US. And the reason why I left Singapore at that time to go to US was in search of freedom, because US was known to be the land of freedom. But then, that move didn't really, last long. It wasn't a permanent move. So I moved back to Singapore, didn't quite like it because I'm not sure whether you guys know, but Singapore is quite a very rigid country. And so it was just a few months, and then I left, went to New Zealand, lived there for about 8 years, then moved to Australia for 10 years. And then due to whatever that's currently happening in the world, not just America, I decided, you know what? It's time to go and make a difference. And this time it involves something that I'm very passionate about, which is freedom of choice, freedom of speech.
Awesome. Yeah. And folks, when we first met, and we'll go into that story, how we met. We met about 3 years ago.
Yeah, two years ago, I think.
Two years ago. Well, it's 2 years ago since I've been to Australia.
Yeah, 2 years ago, 2019.
Yeah, I'll share that story too. But you did, when we first met, you did tell me some information. Where is the real Down Under? Because Americans, when we think of Down Under, we think of Sydney, Australia. But that's not true, is it?
No, it's not. Down Under is obviously when people talk, like globally, when people say Down Under, it's Australia. But where I came from is Western Australia. So that's like the Down Under of the Down Under.
Okay.
Yeah. So when people talk about Australia, they think it's Sydney, Melbourne, because that's the two, I would say touristy places that has been made so popular the last many years. But actually, Western Australia, I must say, is the place to be if you come to Australia. And that's where I've been the last 10 years.
Yeah, and that's fact. That is the place because I've been there, and I will tell you, for those who know me, I don't travel. I love this country, and I think in the last 30 years, probably 30 years, I've only been out of the country twice. Once.
Besides Canada.
Besides Canada, yeah. But I don't even call that a country. Yeah, right.
We kids are a little baby. We just kind of take care of them.
Right.
Problems.
Exactly.
They can do what they want.
But my daughter, she shanghaied me into, she decided to get married in Costa Rica, so I had to go. Great wedding and all that. And then you hooked me, and tell them how we met.
Well, here's the thing. Again, it's a long story. I'm just going to cut it short. I'm actually, apart from whatever that I'm currently doing and previously doing, I am also a brain injury survivor. So many years ago, I had a brain injury. People will not believe it that at one point of my life, I couldn't even string sentences. And it was, how do I say it? It was my rock bottom, and I nearly lost my life, It's again, it's a long story, but yeah, so I made it out from the dark side, and it took me, a number of years for me to rediscover myself. And then when I rediscovered myself, I started to realize that I didn't want to be in the career that I was. I was in the casino management career at that time. I wanted to do something different. So I left a really good flamboyant career and started my business. And then with my business, it was a short-lived business, just 6 months, but then my friend passed away, and I became very passionate about suicide prevention. And that was when I started to do Strive and Thrive events, and the brand was started unintentionally. I just wanted to spread the story about brain injury, about how difficult it is. Brain injury survivors had to, restart, rebuild their life. And I was so passionate about it. And at that time, honestly, right, when I jumped onto Instagram, I thought I had missed the boat. I thought, like it will be hard. But because my heart at that time, I knew that in order to make a huge awareness, the tool is social media. That's one thing I know at that time. So I said to myself, all right, I'm just going to create this awareness, through social media. And luckily, social media was what helped me to really spread my story about how I overcome, depression, anxiety, the brain injury and all that. And somehow on the other side of the planet, you guys were planning to make a brain injury survivor movie. And then somehow I think yourself or someone from your team spotted some of my posts. And then one day I received a message, asking me like, hey, like we're making this movie. Do you want to be part of it? And actually, don't mind me saying this, what I was told is that you guys were just looking for brain injury survivors in US. But there was something about my post that caught your eye, and you guys, really want to kind of like, let's try to bring this girl into US to be part of the movie. And because brain injury was something that, like I'm really passionate about it, because I know a lot of people think that it's something that you can't overcome and you can't, like rebuild your life and all that. And I just want to share my story because I wanted people to say that, hey, this is me now. Can you believe, many years ago, I was a girl that thought my life was over. And it took me many years to rebuild my life, but it is possible. It can be done, Yeah, so I was very passionate, and luckily we managed to crowdfund, to get me to US. And then I was so happy that I was part of the movie. And then of course, we launched the movie in Australia. And yeah, so after that, I thought, there will be something out. But then, after 2 years, there was nothing. But somewhere inside of me, I kind of just knew that I will be back. And I kind of knew like there will be something else, that we'll be doing together.
But let me back up here, because I want to tell you, folks. So we made this movie. It was called Broken Vessels. It was a true story of a young lady who had a traumatic brain injury, and she just happened to be one of our clients in one of my companies. And so we put out a call to brain injury individuals if they'd like to be a part of it. And I don't know how Norita found it out, but like she was on it. Say, hey, I want to come. I want to be a part of this. And my team that was doing the film, and was you a part of it too, David?
It was Jared.
Jared was the one that contacted
Jared,
me. Yeah,
man, you gotta connect with this lady. She is phenomenal. And I'm thinking, okay, now we were funding the cost of bringing people in. So it's like, okay, she's in Australia. Okay, we can't do this. This is Australia. This isn't like we had a lady from Toledo, Ohio come, somebody from...
I think she ended up saying she just drive. I think she ended up driving.
Yeah, and then
so that's like... And we had a couple other people that...
One from Florida came up, and
You're
so...
not talking a few $100 flights.
Yeah, we're talking, a few $100 flights in a hotel. But this was like, okay, this is...
$2,000.
Yeah, and it's like... But we were persistent about it, and then it's like, so we said we had to do it. And you know what? I tell you, that was probably my best decision pertaining to that movie and this whole thing, is to bring you in, because not only were you a tremendous asset to the film, but also the friendships that your family and our family have developed, and actually, you drugged me to Perth, Australia.
Yeah.
Folks, I had not been out of the country.
I said, Jeff, you gotta come, Jeff. Yeah. You gotta come, Jeff.
And it's like, okay, I mean, I hate flying 2 hours. And now I'm gonna travel 24 hours.
No, 36 hours.
36 hours? Yeah, okay, they're at 36. But I tell you, I went, it was awesome. And
we launched the movie there.
You launched the movie there?
And then you were part of my another event. We had the expo there,
Yeah, so, she had an expo there. And I actually got to be a speaker. So now, I mean, I go from having a premiere in a foreign country to being
and they love it, you know.
Yeah,
like
they did.
we had awesome feedback, you know, from the movie launch. And there are people out there, like, don't mind me saying, you know, like they didn't know you, but after they met you and they were just saying to me, hey, he's a good guy, he's a good guy, you know. Yeah.
But also now I'm an international motivational speaker now too.
Yeah.
So I got that. But okay, now that's great. I mean, so now let's fast forward to 2 years. We've been talking about, your desire to come to America because of the freedoms that were here. And why don't you tell the folks a little bit about, that journey, if you will, from what's going on in Australia and your passion for America now, because hopefully you'll get to be here for a while. And you know what? And after you share that, I'm going to tell your story about how you got your visa and all this other stuff too.
I know. All I can say is that this is the work of the divine. That's all I can say. Yeah. So there are people, when I made the decision to come here, there are people who say to me, Norita, but why? You're not even American, This is not our fight, So I'm just going to tell you why I'm passionate about this, because there are a lot of people out there, especially people from my network, they just don't understand what I'm doing, all right? So, and they want to know, like, why is she doing this? So this is the story, okay? So many years ago, when I was a teenager, back in Singapore, I've always been the kind of girl that I love to question things when things doesn't look right or doesn't seem right, okay? I always like to question, and my mom always said to me that there are certain things you can't question why. You just gotta follow. And then I said, yeah, but you can't expect me to follow things blindly. You gotta explain why I have to do certain things. And that's the culture of the Asians, like you don't question, you're not supposed to question, you're just supposed to follow the leaders. You just follow what you're being instructed to do. And that didn't sit well for me. And then I grew up into, in my late teens. There were things that I saw there and I didn't quite gel with it, and I will question and I will say things. I have always had this unfiltered mouth where I just say whatever I believe, and I have, no fear of standing up for what I believe or what I think or my values and all that. And then I had a few family members, especially one of them that works, with the police department and all that. And this family member said to me, Norita, one day you're going to end up in jail, And then I said, why? Because, you're saying things about government and all that. And I said, yeah, but I didn't say anything bad. I'm just questioning because there are some things that I just didn't feel or believe that it's right, So during that time when a number of people, especially family members, said to me that you are in a country that you are not supposed to be saying things that could get you into trouble. And at that moment, I was just this, I can't exactly remember how old I was, but it has to be like in my late teens. This is like over 20 years ago. And I got really sad, and I knew what kind of person am I. I like to stand up for what I believe, and I realized that I'm in a country that restrict me to do that. So I went online and started searching for, okay, where can I go that, I could have, I could practice freedom. And that was when America, I got attracted to America because America was known to be the land of freedom. And that was when I got so attracted to America, and I started planting seeds and start saving for my air ticket. So the first flight I took, at that time, this is like, I was really young. I left Singapore, to go to US. But like I said early on, the move wasn't permanent, and I was homesick, and my mom didn't really, handle me being away. So I flew back. But the story is that as a young girl at that time, I was searching to be in an environment, to be in a country where I could practice freedom. And of course, fast forward from Singapore, I moved to New Zealand, I moved to Australia because why? Like some people ask me, why do you move around so much? Because I didn't want to be in a country that restrict me, to practice what I believe in, regardless of what. I'm not talking about whatever, Like I like to do things that gels well with my spirit. So anyhow, the recent country I was in, Australia, obviously, and then something happened last year. I was never into politics, all right? I'm not sure whether you guys want to talk about politics, but I was never into politics, not really my kind of thing. However, last year, something happened that really caught my attention, and that was the cancel culture. Social media platforms being censored, and there was few scenarios that I personally experienced where, my social media platform was being banned because I said something so which I didn't even think it was a bad thing to say. I was just, voicing out, expressing my views. So from that topic, right, I started to realize that, hey, we built this social media platform for years. We put our energy into it. And then suddenly, just because we said something not bad, but just not the right thing, right? Not according to what they want, they want to be out there. And there's no warning signs, and we're just gonna shut you down. My friend YouTube channels was being shut down for a couple of weeks, and that got me like a bit passionate, because I just suddenly realized that, oh my God, the ones that are shutting us down are from America, and now that there's no such thing as freedom of speech. We're not able to practice, we're not able to express what we feel, what we think anymore, even though whatever that we're saying is not violent, it's not anything bad. It's just what we feel, what we think, So that was when I started to get passionate about, about these areas. And of course, somehow this thing kind of like tangled along with the political world. And then one day I caught myself spending hours watching political debates and all that. And like I said, I'm not into politics. And then when I caught myself, like spending hours watching these political debates, and I said to myself, like, hey, since when I'm into this politics? But suddenly, like out of nowhere, this interest just surged out, just came out. And I started to like really follow with what's happening. And then of course, from there, I started to follow, I'm not sure whether it's okay to mention this. I started to follow the work of Michael Lindell with, freedom of speech. And then I started to follow, the American election, and then whatever that happened, during your election. And again, I'm not an American, but when I woke up that morning and I saw what happened, my heart sank. My heart sank. And I'm not even American. I didn't even vote, My heart sank, and then suddenly I felt like, oh my God, there's an injustice. And like I said, I'm not American, but I just do not know why I was so into it. And then from there, few things was leading to another thing, and then post-election, there was a lot of other things happening. And then suddenly today, we are in, there are more things that are happening. And what got me like more passionate now is because we have come in 2021 when our ancestors, our grandfathers and all that has fought for freedom and all that. And here we are in 2021. And I'm going to get emotional here. That we are forced to do things that we do not want to do. Yeah. We are forced to put things into our body that our spirit, our soul is not, it's not feeling aligned to. And it involves kids, it involves children. And the reason why I decided to pack everything, to sell everything that I have back in Australia, and luckily, Sean, if you're watching here, thank you so much for what you call it, for supporting this crazy idea of mine of selling everything, just to fly to America and be in America. Because why I do what I do here now is because I knew that at this point of time, there's some girl or boy or young child out there who could be where I was over 20 years ago. They're in search of freedom. And if we are not fighting for freedom of choice, then this young boy, young girl that is similar to what I was over 20 years ago, they could grow up not knowing the meaning of freedom.
Yeah. So speaking of that, let's your trip here, because it's been
Sorry,
amazing.
I'm a bit emotional.
No, I understand, man.
I'm just sad. I'm just sad. How did we get here?
Yeah. So, I asked you to come here to be a part of our team, and now the process is you can come and you can stay for 6 months, and then you can renew it for another 6 months.
No. The first story was you said come in here. Have the meetings, meet the team, and then fly back to Australia.
Okay, right.
And then when the thing kick off, and then I come back here. But then if I go back there, then there's this thing called quarantine.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to sit into the quarantine.
Right. That being said, so now, and then this is where divine providence, I think, has come into play. So now.
So you don't know my story, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is
David don't know.
divine.
So. Now, to leave, you were supposed to get a vaccination, right? Get the shot, right?
Yeah.
Did you have to do it?
No.
Wow, that was awesome, right?
Yeah, and it was funny because everyone, this is the thing. everyone thought, because of the media hyping, everyone thought that it's mandatory. And they're feeding my ears saying that you got to take the vaccine, you got to take the vaccine. And I was like really struggling because I didn't want to, And then somehow it was my mistake because I didn't, I listened to these people because these people work in hospital. So I thought they're giving me the right information. And then suddenly few things, I kid you not, right? Few things, thanks to the divine, few things were going wrong, right? My vaccination application registration, because we have to like apply for this card, in order to get whatever. So my application, to get vaccination, all the paperwork were, things went wrong that shouldn't go wrong, went wrong. And then because of that, I was like, oh my God, now I couldn't get the vaccine, right, to travel. And then only when I dig deep and I research on my own, finally I researched on my own, suddenly I found out, hey, guess what? It's not mandatory,
But they were just kind of tricking people into getting
it. And then I start telling people, hey, it's not mandatory. That means, and it was so funny because obviously, as you can tell from my accents, like, my first language is, Singapore, so Asian. So English is not my first language. I had to actually turn to my friend and say, hey, it says here not mandatory. So that means it's not a must, right? Like suddenly I doubt my knowledge of the meaning of the word mandatory. And then I searched the word mandatory. I found out that, correct me if I'm wrong, that mandatory is not actually a law.
Right.
And people do not know that,
I heard somebody say a mandate is two men going out to dinner together.
A mandate, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then so I found out that I didn't have to, to take the vaccine, and then from there I have to go and apply for, the US visa, and that is another divine,
Yeah.
So
let's do this. Let's save this one,
Yeah.
the other story for our next episode. I
All
want to
right.
bring you back.
Okay.
And I just, there's a whole bunch more we want to share.
Yes,
With it.
yeah.
So you want to come back, right?
Oh, of course, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, folks. Hey, thanks again for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, Joshua 24:15.